And frankly, the producer of the film didn't like it. But I heard that this movie was just fraught with drama, and Truman Capote couldn't stand Audrey Hepburn. He wanted Marilyn Monroe to star in it. Nobody liked anybody. One of the directors was fired, and Blake came in, and everyone hated George Papard. And I'm reading this thinking, this lovely film, and it looks like everybody just, but it's not. It's, it's showbiz. But what was the question?
But they want the song. You touched on that. But
at the first preview, when we all went back to Blake's suite, and we all knew that it was too long and cuts needed to be made. And the first words out of the producer's mouth was, "Well, we could cut the song." Now, legend has it that Audrey went ballistic, but that's not my recollection. My recollection is that it took a minute or two for us to digest what he had just suggested, and cooler heads prevailed and cuts were made elsewhere. Thank God, because Moon River will live long after we're all gone. It will become like a Stephen Foster folk song that people will be singing 100 years from today.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, after the movie came out, the song was recorded by everybody. And what do you think does account for the impact that it had and continues to have?
Well, I mean, for a singer, particularly since that's what I do, singers crave wonderful melodies to sing. It's what we look for. And I think a lot of singers have covered that song because it is such a beautiful melody, and it's so impactful. I sing it in concert, and people come up to me afterwards and say, they had their first date to this song, they had their first to this song. It just, people remember so many things, be it a young person or old person, stories and stories about that song, not necessarily about the film, but about how that song impacted them. So that's got a little fairy dust on it. But Dad had an art for melody. That's why he was so successful, and his songs touched people, because people respond to melody, I think.
Right.
Don't you?
Right. And if I could ask you also, just what kind of an influence he had on you in your own singing career. Was he always encouraging? Did he have advice for you that was particularly helpful?
People have this fantasy that my dad played the piano in the living room and that Mom sat there like this, and we'd all be singing around and singing Christmas carols, and we just didn't do that. Dad wrote at home, but he had a studio where he kept to himself, and he did his writing, and there was music playing in the house constantly, but it wasn't him. It was Beatles and musical comedies and all that kind of stuff. We were listening. It was during the British invasion, so our house was flooded with that. So, and he never discouraged. He never encouraged. He didn't say much. But I later on in life, when I started, going into a solo career and exploring his music for the first time as an artist. So, I write the lyrics down and read them and see what it meant to me. And so when I became a solo artist, I totally rediscovered his music. It was always in there. I knew I could sing it in my sleep, but I never had to actually perform it before. So
you're amazing.
Thank you. Who said that? Oh yes.
and it's her birthday today too.
Wow. Yes, me and Audrey share a birthday.
Well, I was going to mention that. Don't worry. But
never mind.
But what are some other favorite songs or scores of Henry's that you particularly are fond of?
He did the music for the Glenn Miller story. Obviously, the music is famous and it's beautiful. But he took those arrangements and made something special in the Glenn Miller story, and that was the first nomination that he had for an Academy Award. And there's a tune in there called "Too Little Time." It's the theme that runs throughout the movie, other than the established arrangements that Glenn Miller played and wrote. Where was I?
Glenn Miller.
I got lost
is-
there.
What's another favorite score or
Too
song?
Little Time. Anyway, and Days of Wine and Roses. I mean, that once he played that melody for me, and he did call me his second pair of ears, because I was the first to hear anything that he wrote. And when I heard the melody to Days of Wine and Roses, I was blown away, and I knew that it had promise, and I knew that it would win. You just know.
And then when you put that song together with what you see on the screen, it's like, I mean, it's powerful.
There was a composer who called Henry one day, who was watching the film Days of Wine and Roses on television and couldn't wait to see the end of it because he had a dinner date. And he called Henry. He said, "I was watching the movie and I couldn't stay till the end. How does it end?" And Henry said, "On a high C with a French horn."
She's doing shtick now.
And then, of course, another Blake Edwards movie that I think the score is iconic is a Pink Panther. Everybody remembers that
That
music.
little sucker lives, I can tell you that. Ka-ching, ka-ching. That's the money maker.
Right. Because it was used in so many different films and cartoons and everything, right? So, yes. We have time just if there are a couple of questions from the audience. Anybody has something that you're dying to know? Yes.
In the 80s, there was a British band called Art of Noise that did a cover of Peter Gunn with Dwayne Eddy on guitar. I wondered what you guys thought of that.
Please repeat
That-
the question.
Repeat the question.
Back in the 80s, a group called the Art of Noise recorded Peter Gunn with Dwayne Eddy, was it? I forget. He loved it. Anytime anybody would play Dad's music or do anything with it, you could turn it inside out, you could play it backwards. He didn't care. He just loved that people loved his music, and that he loved that kind of thing. I think that, who's the guitar player now that is out? Who's a hard rocker that goes out and plays Peter Gunn on stage? Oh, come on, you know who he is. Anyway, but a lot of people still play Peter Gunn to this day on stage, and even Paul McCartney in a concert about 5 years ago incorporated it into one of his riffs at the end of the concert. So it's in people's consciousness, and he loved it.
And your dad was one of the first people to incorporate a jazz influence, wasn't he, into music for television, for that Peter Gunn series, and then for some of the films as well?
Well, and he sort of opened the door for jazz to come into scores for film and for television in particular. Most of the scores were based on, Eastern European influences, and he just broke that mold and put jazz out there, and it really paved the way for a lot of even John Williams to this day, thanks Dad for inspiring him, and a lot of composers were inspired by him.
Right. So, yes.
Mohammed, I love your singing.
Thank you.
Are you working on a new project?
I am.
Working on a new project.
I am working on a CD with Dave Grusin, who's, speaking of film composers, one of the best jazz film composers ever. And he and I are doing a project together of his music, just piano and vocals. So we're very excited about this. Thank you for asking.
Are you, this film that we're about to see, is this one of your favorites just as a film? Do you enjoy watching it over again, or is it very emotional for each of you to see it?
I cry every time I see it.
I know.
I do. I cry at the end.
Don't tell him what's at the end.
No.
Duh.
But
It's a happy ending, that's all I know.
But you can cry at happy endings as well as at sad endings anyway. So, well, I want to thank both of you for coming. Before we leave, though, I would like, as you said, it is Monica's birthday today. I'd like everyone to join in singing Happy Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.